If it's not green, we're not interested. Let's get into it.
Sometimes I think my laugh sounds like a real kind of like stoner laugh. You know, I think since watching back on the podcast, like I've got a bit sort of not self-conscious, because I just don't think I really feel self-conscious anymore about stuff, but I've kind of just become really aware of my laugh, you know. But like I think years ago from doing the radio show, I stopped caring about like the sound of my voice. You know, people can be really funny about that, about like, oh, I can't stand the sound of my own voice, and it's weird. I
think you have to just get used to it.
Yeah,
to get over it. You have to get over it. Like, we listen back to this. You know, there's lots of people that just don't do that, which I find so weird. Like, how do you
get better?
Get better? How do you develop? How do you change it? Like, I had a real, and now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm going to do it loads, but I've had a real problem with and ahs, and I really try to manage it. It's just, if something isn't our story, and it's important to talk about, like this. But if something's not our story and it's important to talk about, often I just need to take a wee bit more time to formulate my words, because it just doesn't come like naturally from my whatever part of the brain.
I'm the worst for it, and you wouldn't think it. I've been working in radio from like 2015.
Yeah,
but I still.
You're
have
really good though.
Ahs, like, it changed for me. Like, see, when I was working in radio, I used to just do all pre-recorded stuff, and then sit for like hours afterwards, like taking out every and every ah.
And there wouldn't have been a program for that then.
No, CapCut does that for you, which is great.
Well, but then I started doing live shows, and I had to just like eat it up.
My worst one is saying like kind of and basically. But the thing is, like, at the same time, you can try and edit what you say and you can work on it, but sometimes I think that makes you like more hesitant when you speak, you know. So on one hand, I'm aware of it and I'm trying to be better at not doing it, but at the same time, I'm also like, you know, I probably want to say what I want to say in a more free and easy way as a bigger priority.
And also, when you don't do all those things and those wee quirks, it's very robotic. So they all we imperfection and stutter and like
we're keeping it real.
It sounds like you're actually having a proper natural conversation.
You can't be 100% perfect. Just almost.
Unless you're Connor.
For anyone that has just popped this on, maybe maybe it's 5 a.m. and you've shouted at your Alexa or smart speaker, and it's came on by mistake. We've actually discovered music that way. You know, just sort of slurring a song and you find something else. But just so you know, I'm Connor.
And I'm Becky.
And I'm Seán.
Oh! And together we are Show Some Love. We are a charity, and this is our podcast. You're very, very welcome. What are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about Greenhouse, because we've talked about it a wee bit, and that's where we are filming if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not watching, then you should, because Seán adds the most hilarious little edits and weird shit to fully read us and make dicks out of us, which we enjoy immensely. So definitely get on and have a look at the YouTube. But we're going to talk about Greenhouse because now we kind of have a bit more, now that we've sort of opened our doors, we're welcoming in the public, we're welcoming in community groups. We want to just make sure that we've got the opportunity to tell people more about it and how to access it. So one of the first things that we wanted to talk about was, what is the point of Greenhouse? What is this? What is it? How would you describe it?
Well, number one, I think it sort of goes in line with our aims and what they've been for so many years. It's a way to bring people together. You know, it's a way to sort of share space, and it's a way to connect, and it's a way to develop ideas. It's sort of it's everything that we've been working on for years, doing lots of little events around the city and in other places. Sort of on hyperdrive, so it's that on steroids. And so far, it's been a roller coaster, but it's really been wonderful to see it happening and take shape. You know, to see people actually use the space, and to see so many of our ideas that we've talked about in previous episodes just come to life. Things that we can kind of just, well, not make up because we've been developing them or planning them for years, but that we can just
go with,
make happen.
Yeah.
We can do it and try it and see what happens. And so far, they've all been very successful. And we've been really quite happy. One thing that I'm very conscious of in this podcast is just not talking too much. Full disclosure, Becky has just bitten my head off.
So did not.
She
did not. In fact, didn't even mention it.
Getting the bunny's head off. Little visual joke there for our YouTube watchers. But I'm actually you're looking at me like, would you speak? And I'm like, no, because you told me not to.
I so did.
You told me that my ADHD my EDHD which is one of my problems, the LBGTs, is sort of taken over today. But yeah, I think that's the vibe. It's bringing people together, and it is. It's trying to make an impact. It's trying to make things better.
Yeah, it's so we talk about the purpose of this space as being like art, activism, and events, and in a very, very simplistic way, that's what it is. But we've got a 4,000 square foot building here, former Thompson's NI building, and they're still our landlords, and they're lovely. It's been very
sweet.
Very, very lovely working with them. The building's gorgeous. And so just to explain to you a wee bit about how it is structured and how it's worked and how you can interact with it, because that's one of the key things about it for us is that anybody can interact with it and people can come at it from all different ways. So our ground floor space where we are recording here is publicly accessible. So it's very, very affordable, and you can pay at the minute. We're charging just £5 for up to 4 hours, which is a half day, or £10 for a full day. And that means that you can have a lovely Bailey's coffee whenever you're in as well, or a tea. You can use some of our equipment. You can come here and work on your own stuff. You can just kind of like, normally there's music blaring and there's lots of bustling activity. People are maybe steaming some clothes. You can come and interact with that, or you can come to one of our events that we will do usually evenings and weekends. And there's a list of all of those events on our Instagram. Some of which, depending on whenever this goes out, there'll be a new programme out for June as well. But some of our ongoing events is every other weekend in here we'll have our fashion flea, which means that a bit like we used to have in our shop in Wine Tavern Street, for every other weekend, we will pull out all of our rails and we will have a big, massive space where we can sell our clothes, we can swap, we can do a bit of fundraising, and they've been really, really lovely so far. So
I've had a couple so far. If I had one,
by the time this comes out, we'll have had a couple.
Oh, so well assuming that this weekend's flea is very successful. But the first one, anyways, was really, really great. We fundraised a really nice amount of money, and we
sorely needed.
Which you really need to, because we're part funded by Belfast City Council for our wages for this year. But that is all. We are independent and we make our own money. And it's really important for us to actually get through that clothing and sell the small amount that we do in order to fundraise. But the first one was great. So we're in a very special part of the town because we're just around the corner from St George's, and we expected this to be like a sort of like cities, like CBDs, like what do you call it in London?
Canary Wharf.
Like Canary Wharf is just dead at the weekend. For some reason, I've worked here. Like I have worked on this block, but for some reason I thought that it would be dead at the weekend. It is so busy. This little part of the street is so busy with tourists, with people that are coming to visit St George's, so many people that are going in with their folks or whatever. I don't know, it's sort of quite a wholesome thing to go in and get a wee bacon bap and sit with your mammy, and then popping over to us afterwards and just coming for a tour, coming to see what the crack is, but also then interacting with bits like the fashion flea. The clothes that we have right now, we had a shop for years, and the clothes that we have right now are really incredible. They're not being sold down every day, so every time that we steam them and get them out for those
fresh stuff out every single weekend,
every time that we steam them and get them out for those special events, they are extra special. So if you can get down for that, come down and have a wee nosy at the space. If I was I am an artist, but if I was a local artist that wanted to know more about Greenhouse and how maybe I'm struggling with studio space or struggling with a place to work, how if I was going to come down to one of the events and have a wee nosy, what's the next step from that? You know, what would I be able to do, and how would I be able to sort of make my relationship with Greenhouse and with Show Some Love a little bit more permanent?
So by the time this episode comes out, we may have already released our first tranche of membership options. But if we haven't, then here's how it's going to work. And we're going to be inviting people to apply to become a member of the space. So the ground floor is publicly accessible and anybody can pay in, come and be artistic and creative and use our clothes as resources or whatever included in the price. But if you want to have a bigger relationship and actually like become part of the ongoing community, our membership prices will start at £30 a month. And that gives you 15 hours of access to our upstairs space. And our upstairs space has like a workroom, which is like a bit more sort of a smaller room, but still like a big shared space with equipment in it, with sewing machines, with an overlocker, laser cutter, things like that people can access and use.
A smaller room to this big room.
To this big, but still a big shared space. We have what we call our library, which is sort of a boardroom setup that people can use. We have our
executive realness,
and it's fabulous. It's really, really gorgeous.
Big Alan Sugar energy.
Yeah, we've got a beautiful members' lounge, which has got really comfortable sofas in it. It's a bit more of a sort of how would you describe it? Like, whereas the rest of the space is very bright and light, and with our glass ceiling here, it means that we there's a lot of, it sort of feels like very like, what's the word? It's very sort of fresh and very bright. I keep coming back to, and vibrant. Our green room is a bit more cool and calm.
It's a bit of a hug.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely comfy sofas.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can sit there and you can do your phone messages or work on your iPad or whatever, or you can just sit and read a book, which would be a really nice thing to do. We've got a members' kitchen upstairs as well, which has been beautifully decorated by our friend Chris Kodo. And there's like your own fridge and stuff that you can use there, and different facilities for being able to make your lunch. Of course, there's the teas and coffees are included in that as well. And we've also got like lots of other smaller rooms that if you need to just get a bit of peace and quiet just to work on something, you can book a desk in one of those rooms and just sit and work away. But our memberships start at £30 a month for 15 hours. So that works out at about £2 an hour. So it's cheaper than being able to use a gym or a swimming pool or anything like that on a pay-as-you-go basis. And
comparatively, it's really cheap.
Totally. And especially, one of the other things that I'm going to talk about as well in a wee second is our upcoming Vacant to Vibrant grant, which is very exciting. But they go right up to, so you can do £30 a month is our most accessible membership, and that means then also you get access to the ability to book your own space, the ability to manage your own membership and things like that via a really cool software platform that we're putting in at the minute that will also create a wee bit more community around it, because you can set yourself up as a profile. You can say the things that you maybe have some skills in that you're willing to share, or the things that you want to learn that you can learn from other members of the community. The memberships go up to our most expensive membership, which is completely unlimited. So you can kind of come and go as you please whenever we're open. And that is £200 a month. And that is for 7 days a week access. And you can come in for the whole time if you want to.
What are our opening times, Becky?
Good question, Connor. So we're open from 10 to 6 every day. So we don't close any days during the week. But also, if you're a member and we're doing an event at nighttime, you can stay on. So if say, for example, we're doing Queer as Folks, which will finish up at about sort of 8:30, 9 at night, then that means that you can come in and work away in the space upstairs as well. Your membership gives you that.
I think something that's most interesting for me, if I wasn't me, is just the community. It's the thing that we never really found in other arts communities. It was that sometimes people go and hide away, and that there's not so much of there's not so much space to connect with other people, to sort of say, I've had this idea, I want to collaborate on this thing, I need an artist for this. Do you fancy doing this? What do you think of this? Is it crap? Whatever the thing is, whatever the conversation is, or just my head is melted because of the system that we work within, or actually I've got this booking from these people. How does that work? How the hell do I price that? What would their budget be? Or do you have any advice for that? It's all of those kind of conversations that actually help to build each other up, that help to strengthen our community, that help to keep us independent, and help to make sure that people aren't being used or aren't being exploited within it, because we can kind of keep each other in check. That's one thing that I would find really interesting. And then also, the fact that upstairs, I think one of the key things for me is that because it's a private members community, because you have to apply and we have to approve that, we can pretty much guarantee that there won't be any dickheads up there, that there won't be any turfs, that there won't be any religious extremists that are going to evangelise or whatever, that there won't be just melters generally, you know, the sort of people that sometimes within public spaces, within public community spaces, can be a wee bit of a magnet for that, just sort of mad people. I know that we're mad people. I know that we're surrounded by them. I know that we're surrounded by bloody weirdos, and we're very happy to say that and be that. But sometimes you just you just need to escape a wee bit from the sort of hustle and bustle of what is going on in Belfast city centre.
Exactly. And one of the things that I'm going to go back to, because I'd said I was going to go back to it, and I'm wild for saying, I'll come back to that, not doing it, is vacant to vibrant, which is very, very exciting news that we have just had this week, which is that we have applied for, I'm sure you've probably heard of it, it's been in the news a lot, and we would urge other people to apply for it if it's relevant. If you're an organisation that's prepared to take on an older, unused and unloved building like we have in this place, and there's so much more character and there's so much more scope and a lot of work. So definitely better if you're in the charity space, you know, or at least if you're doing something that is community related, there's a lot more appetite for that sort of thing. But Vacant to Vibrant is actually a really, really positive scheme that the council have put into place, where they're investing into the city centre, which is a constant cry out. You know, it's one of the biggest bugbears for people is looking in our city centre and finding that a lot of the buildings are just crumbling, or they're just being left to, well, actually, that's one thing I want to say on that as well, is Vacant to Vibrant is fantastic, and we're about to avail of it, and we're going to be getting about £25,000 worth of equipment that our members can use, that the community can use, that we can share and be able to really, really maximise and make sure that all of those tools are able to be used for people's own work, their private work, or for collective work, you know, all different manner of ways of using them. Everything from like massive printers, laser cutters, knitting machines, embroidery machines, sewing machines, like everything that...
We're going to have so much. We're going to make so many things.
So many stencils and stickers and be able to... And screen printing equipment, you know, stuff that is just like... Other places do have some of the same things, but they're definitely massively oversubscribed. And sometimes I think that there can be a wee bit of fear or reticence in being able to access some of those spaces because people think, oh, it's not for me. This is not that place. You know, it is for you. It is for everybody. We are not our memberships are open, but our public access is even more open in terms of the ground floor. But we're very, very excited to hopefully have all of that in for end of June, beginning of July. But one of the things that I wanted to say on that as well, whenever we were talking about the city centre and talking about the way that our city centre is being misused, I would say is probably the best thing, is in terms of our rating system. You know, like Progressive Politics put up a post about it recently about, you know, how the businesses and the buildings are being sort of left go to ruin. And we made some points on that, which is to say that there's some big things that need to change and that could easily be changed and managed through the rating system, which is that landlords should be penalised for allowing a business or allowing a building to just get dilapidated. You know, so the shop fronts...
They're incentivised.
They're actively incentivised. So this is the sort of thing that people should be speaking to their councillors about. They should be speaking to MLAs about. They should be challenging. That says that if big companies come along and just buy these buildings and let them just go to rack and ruin, they're actually incentivised not to have them used, because they are unrateable once they have pulled out the plumbing and the electrics and made it so that the building...
Depressing.
It's mad. Like, we've actually viewed buildings that would have been perfect for us to move into, but we couldn't because they had actually spent a lot of money to pull out plumbing, pull out electrics, pull out kitchens, make the building like basically like a big shell so that it was more attractive to sell and so that they didn't have to pay rates on it anymore. And that is just the wrong way around. Yeah. You know, it should be penalised rather than incentivised. And the meanwhile system is also kind of broken, you know, so we have as part of our Belfast agenda that the intention is to have more culture, more creative spaces, spaces, more artist studios. It's something that we all know and that the council agrees with. But yet there are means and ways to actually make that happen through things that are actually within their control that are not changing and should happen. So that we've got organisations and charities and people that can use a space on a temporary meanwhile basis, like a short-term basis. But there's no permanence to that. So thinking about other artist communities that, like the Vault, for example, they have meanwhile space access to a building, but that means that while they have to use their community resources, their artistic resources to move into a space, to make it usable for them, they spend time and money on that. But then that means that they've got there's a real temporary nature to that. Whereas what people actually need is places that they can put some roots down, that they can invest in, that they can build, that then will grow from there,
What is meanwhile? I think that's important to say.
A meanwhile is basically where somebody who owns a building can offer a space free to charity, because charity, according to HMRC's, the HMRC rating, a charity is not liable for rates on a building. And often in the city centre, the rates can be as much or more than what the rent is. So the rates is what's paid to the government or to the council. The rent is what's paid to the landlord. So that rating system is actually like misgearing and meaning that our city centre is only full of like global retailers. So it means that there's this sort of homogenous aesthetic to every city centre, because it's not just Belfast that's doing it. It's really important to say that as well. It's across all cities that are run by the UK government as well.
So it's the idea, it's a global thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Capitalism is eating us and will be the end of us. Don't have a lot of hope that it's not going to be honest. No, it's sort of our job to have hope, but I think we're fucked. I do think the one thing about the meanwhile system is that so they're incentivized to have a charity or another community group come and use their space. They then get that rate free, but then what often happens is that they independently fundraise or take funding from some other source to do up the building. And then they're on this like month to month kind of basis, where then the landlord then can choose just to take it back, to sell the building, to redevelop it, to put another person that wants to pay for the building into that space. And it means it further kind of exacerbates the problem with the very sort of short-term thinking and acting within a lot of the sectors, charity and arts and all the rest of it, where we can't really we can't think long-term.
Yeah,
it's about buildings and about spaces and about projects. One, because of the funding system that
is also broken.
But because of those buildings, because you just don't know how long you're going to be there. Somewhere like Vault on the Newton Arch Road, there was just this month to month. They didn't quite know what was going to happen. At any point, the rug could be pulled from below you.
That affects people's mental health as well, because those places are like a source of stability, of income, of community, like all of these things. But whenever you're like, this could be whipped out from under us at any minute, then that negatively affects all of the people, not only that are part of it, but the people that use those places as well for other reasons. But I think one of the good things as well about Vacant to Vibrant is that one of the elements of it is that you have to have the opportunity to use the space for at least 2 years, and that is a positive. And then that, one of the ways that you can use that Vacant to Vibrant money, we're choosing to go down the equipment route more, but that's sort of down to the nature of the building and the state that it was in, that actually it was really very cosmetic what needed to be done. But it's also then there's a benefit to the landlord if there's this pot of money being made available to make the space aesthetically more attractive and appealing and usable. Yeah.
We got to speak to the owners of this building. They came to our launch weekend and they loved it. All of the bits we painted and all the rest of it. I think we've already talked about that. But it just brought me so much bloody joy that someone that's been in this space and used this space and built this space and poured so much into it that they can see it revitalised,
Yeah, and it sort of has a new life and like a different life.
I definitely think it's one of the best schemes the Vacant to Vibrant is one of the best schemes that the council has came up with. Because one of the things that has decimated like the city centre is because during the Troubles, so much of like the buildings and real estate was bought up when it was worth next to nothing because it was at risk of being blew up or was partially damaged due to bombs and stuff. So like so many people took advantage of that and bought it all up and have just been sitting on a gold mine of and a historic building or like a really valuable piece of land that just keeps accumulating money over years, and it's creating all this generational like wealth where like a family might own this like from somewhere in England or whatever or further afield, like owns a big plot of land in the city centre of Belfast, and it makes sense for them to just keep a hold of it and let it build
Accumulate
and build
money.
and build and let it sit empty because it's sort of like it's their retirement plan. It's their something to pass down.
It's
to
an asset line on a spreadsheet somewhere.
It becomes that rather than actually something that means something.
And meanwhile, it just sits empty here and just allows the city to crumble around it.
I do think, like, and you know, speaking to the team that are running this game as well, it's like one of the sort of major missing points that I know that a lot of people that tried to interact with it, like that struggled with, was that people were like, "Oh, great! So I can go to this group and they'll show me all of the buildings that need to be used, and then I can pick one of them and then we can proceed from there."
That should be the way.
That should have been the way it was. But the team have sort of like got their hands tied behind their back, like not through want of willing. You know, they've been incredibly helpful and they're really, really good. But they're limited into what they can do because there isn't a list. There isn't like a list of available properties. You know, you then as the organisation have to find the property and have to do all of that bit yourself and then go to them and say, "No, I want to do vacant to vibrant," you know? So there's just, there's so much more onus is put onto it. We're very lucky that we have the commercial experience to be able to have those conversations, to be able to look at the property and go, yes, this will work or not. But that's not necessarily a skill that will sit within each of the organizations, you know, whenever it's maybe like run by a specific discipline of artists or, you know, it's commercial skills, you know, and space planning is great if people have it and they have that vision, but not everybody does, you know.
There's so many things that you say, you're very kind to say that we have those skills. You have those skills. There's so many of the funding pots and application processes, this like, give us your idea and we'll give you a couple of grand kind of stuff is you look at it and it's just like form after form after form. It's seriously inaccessible and it's sort of they're bogged down. There's so much of the process. This isn't just the council, it's
far from it.
Right across all of the sectors, but we're really bogged down in the sort of bureaucracy of it all. It seems like someone at some point did something that was maybe quite simple, and then for the next program, for the next sort of path, they've put something else onto it, and then they've added something else, and before you know it, you've got this 60-page document that you're meant to digest, work out, and then write in this other language in order. Like there's people out there that it's literally their job to speak that language and to write the forms and to fill in the funding applications. It should be more accessible to people, or we should supply people to do that, you know?
I think that's like one of the ironies of it. It's like one of the most difficult things. And we were at the Visual Arts Forum not that long ago because there was this incredible guy, Mark, speaking from the South Bank Centre, sharing
really
his experience and things. It was amazing. We were really, really delighted to be invited to it.
Gluten-free scones.
Yeah.
Just,
good. That's the Mac for you there. Brilliant.
Yeah, lovely wee fruit salads.
Yeah.
Lovely wee fruit salads.
Yeah, we breakfast meeting it once. But while we were there, like we all had like sort of an assignment to do to kind of like talk about specific subjects. And sitting around the table, there was like somebody from the Vault, somebody from Print Workshop, somebody from an independent artist that was coming down from Derry. And the main thing that everybody wanted to do was kind of talk about the issues that they had at the minute with other people from arts organisations, you know. And one of the main sticking points that people had was, we keep getting invited to apply for these funding pots, but yet the one thing that they will not supply and the thing that we need the most, which is like staff and buildings and utilities and all of the basic stuff that you need to have taken care of so that you can then go and be creative and be an artist and do all of the cultural stuff that's wanted. But whenever you go to apply for these pots, they say, oh, well, we're not going to cover project costs. We're not going to cover salaries. We're not going to, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a 1-year deal and you have to not have started the project and, you know, it has to start on this date and end on this. It's so limiting and it has to cover these topics. You know, it feels like a lot of these pots are very much like, well, we want to deliver this, so therefore we're going to make this money available to deliver this. And it's like, what about what people need? You know, what about like, it's really, really important that I think that it's something that's missing in our sector as well, is that we've become too funding reliant. That's unquestionably a thing. You know, in most other cities, it's kind of a bit alien that every single artist is purely relying on funding pots. There needs to be a wee bit more sort of even capacity building or skill giving in terms of like, how do people make their art more commercial, or their wares or whatever it is that they can sell or they can trade at the same time. But there still definitely needs to be a place for art's sake, for creativity's sake, which there does need to be funding and support available for. But my God, there is so much waste when it comes to time, energy, process, all the rest of it. There is all of these forums and all of these, oh, well, do you know, you could fill in this form and we'll give you like 4 hours of business support. Fucking pointless. Like 4 hours of business
so many
support
of those things, and
is
they're
no
just
good to manner based. Do you know
the odd bit, and it's only because we sort of have a certain energy and spice or maybe a magneticness to us, I think, and it's almost embarrassing in our culture to say that out loud. It sounds a wee bit sort of American, but we do.
Or wanky.
Or a bit wanky, but we do, and I'm really proud of that because it's one of our sort of special things. But it's only whenever we can sort of get to someone like Frank McGlone, who give us loads of support through a program, and then privately was able to mentor us and give us further support. He was able to bring in his daughter, who did a lot of stuff around governance and all the rest of it. It's only when you can sort of really get to it on a very personal level and connect with someone, then you can really get the support that you need. But what's actually funded for isn't really enough.
Yeah.
You know, but of course so much of it seems like the agenda is to put it in some sort of finished report of how they supported artists or what they did to support business or whatever. And so much of the time you sit in those things and you think, it's what you're saying about wasting time.
Yeah.
You think, God, I really can't afford to be here.
Yeah.
You know, are we really sitting around and you're calling it a workshop or whatever they call it? But we're basically just filling in your form.
Happen with
it's an assessment form.
Yeah.
You know, like, is there any point? Like, should I? Like, I know that I know we're here. I'm not talking about the visual arts forum, but I know we're here and we've had a wee sandwich and we've had our scone and we've had our coffee. That's great, but we have spent 3 hours. I wonder what my takeaways are. You know, is this more heavily loaded to the people who are actually putting on the course? You know, is there something for me to really take away?
It's the so what?
And it's the so what? What's the fucking point? You know, and it's almost like illegal to say.
Yeah.
You know, like...
But it's because we're in a scarcity model, you know, it's because people are like, and it's why the gatekeeping happens in the community as well. And that was like one of the points that we brought up as well. Because people are in competition with each other for scarce resources, it means that there is an innate lack of sharing and an innate lack of, or like wanting to keep what you have protected, because if you don't, then somebody else is going to come along and compete for it, you know, and it's like, we are a land of culture, but yet it is so bloody hard to actually create any of it. And we're celebrated for it, but yet it's people that are creating it that are like going without, you know, that's really, really hard to try and make a living as an artist or as a creative, unless you're doing something that is related to film, or don't even talk to me about music. I mean, don't have to tell you, but it's impossible because the structures are not there. And what we're doing is we're subsidizing like all manner of crap whenever it comes to like capitalism and consumerism, and we're celebrating this like unbridled consumerism, but yet we forget that actually the thing that gives us the richness of society are the creatives and the artists and the people that often just like do it for the love of it. And there is a huge the Venn diagram is a circle in people that work in the community and people that work in the arts. Do you know what I mean? The two things are completely inseparable.
We're propping up our arts sector with funding, not a lot of funding, but we're keeping it, you know,
just enough
ticking over with funding instead of investing in the structures around that to make it be able to thrive on its own and be independent.
That's it. So it sort of becomes self-sustaining. I think it should be more focused on that. It's just the thing with so many of the sort of funding models or sections of our sort of societies and groups is that so much of the time there's real monopolies that sort of sit within them.
Yes.
If you're not part of one of those groups, and without even saying them out loud, we know who they are. We know who gets the millions and millions of pounds of funding. If you're not part of one of those groups and have those, I imagine, sort of teams of people that speak that language, you can type the forms and do the thing. If you're not schmoozing in the right places, then you don't have the opportunity to make things better. We would say if you resonate with this and you want to make change happen and you want to make things better and you want to show some love for our community, including all of us here, come join us. You know, if you're equally raging. In fact, one thing, are we talking about Artists Anonymous today?
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
One thing that we would love to talk about is something that we had on our programme for this month for May, but we're having to move because
we've been triple booked for that night.
Because we're going to be in the parlour.
Yes.
We're going to be with the mayor, who is Mickey Murray, who we are now contractually obliged to talk about every single episode. He actually does listen.
Yeah.
He really listens to all of them.
Reasonably good.
He's reasonably good. He is gay and don't know anything about his politics, but
he's got nice teeth.
He's got great new teeth.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Love you.
But we were talking about Artists Anonymous. We were going to have it this month. It was programmed for this month, but we're going to pop it into the next month, and it's going to appear on the next program. We just want to give anything new on the program and anything new that we're launching the biggest sort of amount of energy that we possibly can. And the idea behind Artists Anonymous is basically to have these conversations around a table to allow people to express themselves, for it to be much like Queer as Folks, where there's not going to be cameras, we're not going to record it. It will be anonymous. If you want to come and just sit in the circle or sit around the table and not say anything and just listen, you can do that too. But it's a place then to share ideas and to share maybe like even just the Belfast 2024 funding. It took for someone else within the sector to reach out and say, this actually be really great for you. But I don't know if we would ever have even heard about it if it wasn't for that.
But we want to be able to get people into the same room in a really informal way, but gather opinions in a more formal way, that everybody from somebody who's a brand new person wanting to get into the arts sector, but also people who have been in the arts sector for 20 years or who run an artist studio or who are a performer or trying to get dance off the ground. We want to get as many people into the room as possible from all different perspectives of creativity and culture and music and theatre and all the rest of it, so that we can say, okay, we all need to bang the same drum and sing off the same hymn sheets, to mix my metaphors there. But in order to do that, we need to all be saying the same things, understanding the different problems from the different areas, and then to be able to actually bring that to people that can do something about it. Because I feel like there are different forums, horses for courses and things, but I know that there's a wish, and there's a meaningful wish to help and to do something from the council. The individuals that work within those different departments are incredibly talented, caring and passionate people, but often they have, again, their hands tied behind their back in terms of the power, in terms of the decision making, in terms of budgets and things like that. So we want to make sure that we, as understanding the problems that we've experienced, both from being within artist studios, as being individual artists, as being creatives and charities and all the rest of it, we can add whatever skills that we can lend to that, we want to lend. And if now that we have a space to be able to offer people to come and meet, we want to be able to do that, because it's one of the things that we've listened and learned about, is that hasn't happened very successfully in the future, or it has and people come at it with gusto and then it sort of tapers off.
It's that there's not an outward facing thing. So we get there, we're angry and we're raging about stuff, or we're discussing things, or we're maybe really happy. I don't know what's happening, but we the energy is there. And this happens in the third sector as well, in the charity sector. We then are incapable, because of the funding models or because of anything else, of taking that next step. So you're like, yes, we're raging about this. So what's next? How do we take direct action on that? How do we as a group make change about this? Who has contacts within the media? What does that look like? Who can they speak to? How do we hold this person or this group to account? How can we uplift this other group that are doing a really good job? What about these ones? Because they're working their balls off and they never get the lights sort of shone on them. Even the way that it sort of works, right, sort of now with media and social media especially, how can we work together to show people your program and invite our people who are like-minded and have the same very similar agenda to your thing?
Yeah, because I think one of the things that is the most frustrating is that it's always the same voices. It's always, and not just on an organizational level, but it's always the same individuals. It's like there's a procurement process that has been gone through, and once you've gone through and back to the marketing and the same, oh, that works, let's do loads of that. So rather than it being like a tapestry of all of the different voices and all of the different things, and everybody gets a bit of a turn, that actually it's just the same thing over and over again. And we need to sort of democratize it a bit and make sure that people's voices are getting shared a wee bit more equally, not just queer voices and non-white voices and people that have got disabilities and women, and we need to sort of level the playing field a wee bit in terms of the different types of talents and things that are out there as well. So we just want to very simply say, here's a space to do it. Yeah. So come and talk to us and tell us, and how we will lend our skills or talents or whatever we can add to it is also then in saying, okay, well, we've also got the ears of some of the MLAs and some of the council members and things. So how can we make that into something that is where arts and activism are really, again, intrinsically linked? How can we do more activism around the arts?
Totally.
You know,
I think for years we've been working really, really hard to build a platform, and now that we're on it, we're like just dying to use it.
But we also have to like not die in the process, which is why we've had like a lovely couple of days off, which has been nice.
It's also why we've I really try to balance my absolute anger at what's going on in the world and all the rest of it with the incredible things that happen when we bring people together. Yeah. It's actually why it's really important to come together. Yeah. Sometimes get that off your chest, but then afterwards just say, do you know that thing you're doing? It's fucking brilliant. Yeah. You know, like we were out last night at a thing, and the amount of people that were just like, you know, because we're really in this space and we're really in sort of making the program happen and trying to make it perfect and making sure that everything's set and that we're ready for all of the things that we sort of plan to do. And so many people last night were very much in the space of, they sort of bring you out of that and they show you the bigger picture to say, fuck, it's brilliant what you're doing. Oh, and I've seen that thing. That's really special. And it's actually what should be happening at Artists Anonymous, but on the streets. You know, that sort of way. It was lots of artist types and creatives that were bringing ideas or saying it was great or bringing support or ways that they could sort of work together with us. We want to do that in one room, you know, and just 100%. Have a nice time.
Hear people, have people feel heard. Because even whenever we did Queer as Folks, which is our like gay parents club, as one of our friends called it, who's coming along. Apparently Cara Friend Youth Group, they call like gay youth club. So it's kind of the same thing. But actually we found that the secondary benefits that came from it was from some of the grown-up queer people around the table were able to just like say things that they were able to get off their chest, to say they wish things were better because of this. And just simply the act of being able to say it and being heard was actually very cathartic. And then not to say that that's what's going to we're just going to say it. We're all just going to like, it's not going to be like a circle jerk or a big moaning session. It will be a session for people to get things off their chest, but with actions that come out of it at the same time. And
so
hopefully
what's
we can
next?
do that. It's like, what's next? So what are we going to do? Yeah. And we're going to create a plan from it. And we're going to like engage the media.
Important for people.
I think so.
You know, because there's so many of these like dialogue events where it's like you turn up and you voice something that's very important to you, and then it's like nothing comes with it.
It's like activism. So the amount of protests and the amount of like things that you go and like, oh well, this needs to change. It's like, but who are you asking to change? Is the decision maker in the room? When will you know that success has been achieved? You know, it's like, we talk about this constantly. It's like all of these things, activism should be treated just the same way that business deliverables are. It should be, you should be looking at things that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time constrained. Do you know, like we need to apply that same rigor when it comes to the left and whenever it comes to change and whenever it comes to actually making things better, which is our purpose.
There's so many times that we've left groups like that or like meetings or whatever it is, and I'm just like, I wait till I get in the van and sit down and just go, what was the point of that
That
again?
could have been an email.
Oh God, we could talk about that. There could be multiple. There could be a whole series full of things that could have been an email. But that we sit there and I'm like, so what? So is that it? What about that thing that such and such said? That's really terrible. That thing that's happening, or that person in the way that they're treating people, or whatever it is. And it's sort of people have this sort of a way of being about them that they're like, well, sure, what can you do? And you're like, fucking something. But I think do something.
Mickey was really good speaking at Sunday service, where Mickey said, like, you know, as a counsellor, it's not my job to like hold you guys to account. It's my job to hold the council to account. We work for you, and it's really important that we know what is happening and that then we can do as much as we can, because we're all here to make change. They work their bollocks off. They do mad hours to try and actually make a difference. And some people are there for like different reasons. But actually, whenever you think about the Mickeys and the Kate Nichols and the Brian Smiths and the Anya Grogans and all of the people who genuinely really care and want to make a difference, Seán Mulholland as well wants to come in and say it. She spoke really beautifully in the executive about the very thing about artist studios and what more needs to be done to help. But I was really interested in what you've given us so many insights, Seán, as well, talking about what happens in the music scene, about then how do we bring that in with like Free the Night, for example, and how the licensing scheme is so like cancerous to our economy here because the repression and the closing hours and the fact that people, it's a surrender principle only and all of that stuff that actually, again, is easily fixable. It's within their gift to do it.
It's what Johnny Tiernan was saying.
Yeah,
imagine if you could just get a few beers and sell them and just have a fucking gig and just have fun.
And it's not about keeping people safe, and it's not, but do you know what it is? It's about inflicting like other people's morals and the temperance movement onto individuals that actually don't have, we've got our own morals, thank you very much, and being able to crack open a tin of beer and make a pound or two on it would actually be a really helpful way of people being able to like make a bit of money. It would also like take away from the black market and things like that.
Like one of the things that like Johnny and I spoke about like that time that he was in was about like the lack of arts opportunities or to view art, like get involved in art before the age of 18. You know, and taking art away from like only exclusively adult places. And it's very coincidental that the most of the places where that is accessible is usually like church halls. And
that's no fucking
groups,
coincidence.
You know what I mean? Like it's not that there's like an independent secular like youth arts. There is obviously, we've got the OES Centre, we've got the Nerve Centre, we've got Rainbow Factory, stuff like that.
But they're impacted by licensing as well.
Yeah, you know? And they're very limited in what they can do.
And there's a paywall with so much of that.
So there needs to be a whole lot more of stuff like that too.
I think there's three things that I recently commented on that progressive politics post that would dramatically transform our city and that are all completely achievable by the council and by the executive office. And those three things are basically everything that Free the Night are saying in terms of licensing, in terms of culture. The other thing is public transport. Our public transport needs to be affordable, it needs to be reliable, and it needs to be plentiful. Do you know?
It needs to be publicly owned.
Yeah, I mean, that's like big time.
I mean, so clearly.
Yeah, I mean, my God, like the public utilities and public transport should be publicly owned because at the end of the day, they're being subsidised and but whenever you put them into profit motive spaces, it means that they only choose profitable routes. And so if it means that like there's only 5 people on the bus at 11:30 at night, then they don't put the bus on. Or if it only goes to like a wee country town that maybe it's not that well served, then they just take that bus off. You know, it needs to be publicly owned so that it can be a public service, you know.
So they can make decisions, that it's not a private business that's making those decisions for our community.
Like a quarter of our train routes that we had like 100 years ago. We've also got like, as you said, like no bus services or public transport services of any kind after a certain point at night, which causes a whole big, like, it causes people to just not want to visit the city centre at night.
And it puts people in danger.
It does as well.
You know?
Well, funny, it sort of leads us on to probably one of the last things we're going to speak about today. But we have an upcoming event that may have already happened. But if it's already happened, there's another one coming.
Yeah.
It's called Sunset Disco. And it's actually on from 6 o'clock in the day or in the night to 11 o'clock at night. So you can go home and get your train. You can get your bus. You can get home. You don't have to be stuck in the town. It's 25 plus. So there'll be no melter children off the face on God knows what they do nowadays.
Yeah.
And
it'd be nice and chilled and like welcoming and I'm not going to necessarily say sophisticated, but certainly like an enjoyable time, you know, where people can come along and sort of be grown-ups and dance and have a few cans.
So it's Bring Your Own, which is extra special, and DJ Seán McCann is going to be playing with, we've billed it as DJ Seán McCann and friends, so we'll see who turns up, what sort of surprises we'll have for you. But it's disco, funk and soul. Seán is a disco legend, so get on it because it's going to be a really, really, really special night.
Yeah, and it'll raise us some much needed funds to be able to keep our lights on and to buy stuff and to be able to make sure that we have as many free events as possible or donation only events. Because again, that's what we're here to do as well, is bring people together wherever you come from, whatever your background, whatever you can afford, then we will have something that means that you can come and take part as well.
Totally.
One last thing I just want to very quickly just say, because hopefully I'm sure that we will still have this open, and that is that we're soon going to be releasing our intern program. It probably will be already open by the time this happens. So we're doing it a wee bit differently this year than we did last year. Last year we had an incredible intern program. It was our first time running it, and we had loads for people to do, but we were kind of like, we didn't ask very much of the people that came to come and take part. It was only a couple of days. It's, sort of shorter days as well. But this year, because we have this massive space, we're going to have more roles available and all different types of roles as well. So it's open. You can read all about it on our website, on our social media. And we would encourage, whether you're studying or whether you're not studying, but you want to come and do it's on a volunteer basis, but it will have a bit more structure. And we're asking people for at least 2 days a week for a period of 12 weeks. But the overall program lasts 16 weeks, and you can do anything up to full time for the whole period. But we want people to come and get really stuck into something. So it could be everything from, if you've got an interest in hospitality or event management or PR or social media, or you want to try out making, if you're a maker, but you're maybe like home taught and you want to be able to come and use the space and try out with assisting on workshops and things like that. Yeah, loads of things. So if you basically think that you could lend your time over that summer period to be able to do something that you can get your teeth into, that you can learn a bit, and you can contribute to what we're doing, then please do get in touch. Obviously, it's very suitable to students who are off for the summer, but not exclusively students. That's one thing that's very key that we're saying.
We are so far from making any promises about hiring anyone for a while. But out of last year's programme, we were able to get multiple interns. We were able to help to get them into employment in other spaces. And we also hired 2 out of our, I think, 10. So we had
2 out of 7.
Out of 7. So Beth and then Grania, who is literally sitting feet away from here. She's our operations manager here at Greenhouse, and we're so grateful to have met them and that they're within our space and they're supporting us. So come and do that, because it's going to be loads of fun. And the summers here are a lot. It used to be actually summer was our downtime, because winter was the time for most need, but now summers really are time to bring as much energy as possible. We've got Pride, and we've got lots of events, and we've got lots of pop-ups and things that we've got planned. So come and get involved in all of that, because it'll be great.
Yes, loads of fun stuff coming. It'll be good.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Are you
we good, Seán?
We're good. I yawned like 3 times there, and I was waiting to be
admonished
read for it.
Yeah. Well, I think I
used
to read you for it, but now you've got a brand new, you've got a newborn.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would just, you sort of slip in like the nasty space where you're like, what are you doing, yawning? You're like, I'm sorry, but I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
You've never had a child, you don't know what it's like. Shut up, Connor.
Before you just couldn't be arsed.
That still can't be ours, but I have it.
Every time I see you yawn, though, you sort of do this thing where you're like ready to be read.
Yeah.
And I laugh like.
Well, it may be well then. It may be well in future. We'll maybe do it. I still haven't forgot about that. Oh, you've did the bum in. Of course, that's my coffee gone.
Oh, well.
Nightmare. Well, look, thank you for listening. If you are listening, make sure you share the podcast. Make sure you like it and you rate it and all the rest of it. Tell social media all about it. If you've got nothing else and no other time to give or no money to give or anything like that, get on social media and let people know that we're amazing. Share it with your followers and your friends. And
like everything, comment on everything, even if it's an emoji.
Yeah, and if you are, if you're listening, go on and watch on YouTube, because we're in this beautiful space of Greenhouse, and it's nice to get
visualize,
to see us and to see what the crack is. But yes, we will see you again next week. Thank you again for that, and we hope that you'd like to show some love.
Bye.